Welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel every day leading up to Halloween. It chooses the horror movie and they discuss it. Today we're talking about 2010's The Wolfman, which was directed by Joe Johnston. I'm your co-host Alec.
I'm Eric.
And Eric, this is a you movie. This is definitely...
I mean, it's no cats, but it's good.
It's no cats. I remember this movie. When did this come out? I know it's 2010, but like when did it come
February.
Okay, so I was not working at Hoyt's then. I would have been in college at that point. So I think
February.
Yeah, it was February 12th. So I remember you seeing this, dude, in theaters, and
I loved it.
Yeah, and I remember you really liking it. Yeah. How do you feel now?
I saw it with Valente. I mean, me and Valente saw it in theaters, and I liked what they did with it. However, seeing it again, and again, I've seen it a few times. This was one of the first movies I bought on Blu-ray. I know that sounds weird because it's 2010. But literally, I had no Blu-rays, and I bought this one because I just like wanted to. I saw it, got a deal. But yeah, I like this movie a lot. It takes a lot from the old movie, but also somehow makes it older because I think the original is based off of like the 30s, like the time it was made, and this one's like it feels like the 1800s, right?
It's 1891, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so not too far off, but like 50 years before when the original Wolfman was based on.
Yeah.
It takes parts of Talbot. It turns things on its head. There's things I really don't like about it, but watching it again, it's like, it's not a great movie. It's very corny. Mm-hmm. A lot of weird forced lines. There's parts when it's like, all right, this just lost my attention. But when I saw it in theaters, I really enjoyed it. All
right, well, two things really quick. I just want to say my first Blu-ray ever, I remember, was 310 to Yuma. Don't know why, but that's what that was. But let me ask you.
The remake?
Yeah, with Christian Bale and Russell Crowe. That was my first Blu-ray. I still have it. But did you watch the extended cut or did you watch the theatrical cut?
Theatrical, and then I watched this one on Peacock. I saw for the first time I saw it in theaters, so that's a theatrical version.
Right.
And then I don't think I've ever watched the extended, but I saw the one on Peacock today.
Okay, so we watched the same one. The one that we watched is the hour 42-minute version. There's apparently one that's 17 minutes longer, and I was like, shit, I kind of wish I watched that one because, dude, this movie feels like there's just chunks missing. Like,
yeah,
it feels like there's so many things that weren't developed that just don't make sense. Like, explain this to me. Maybe I totally missed this, but why did Anthony Hopkins do all of this? Like, why did he lie to his son? Why did he send his son away? Like, why did he... It just seemed like there was not filled in.
Yeah, so the way I was picking it up is Anthony Hopkins went to India a long time ago, 25 years before this movie. Mm-hmm. Before the setting of this movie. And he was bit by a boy in a cave, a feral boy in a cave, and came back and had lycanthrope. So every full moon he turned into a werewolf. He went on killing sprees, killed his wife, and decided to lock himself up in the crypt or whatever that area was. He did that for 25 years. So 25 years times like 12. So he's done that 300 times at least, where he's been locking himself up in that cage by, I think his name was Singh, his like trusty friend that he ends up killing at the end. Yeah. And I think he went mad. I think he started going crazy. And he says something along the lines of Gwen taking away your brother. So Benicio Del Toro, Larry, or Lawrence, they call him more Lawrence in this than Larry, he left the family to go do acting.
No, they sent him away. They sent him to the mental institution and then he became an actor.
Yes.
And they sent him away because he saw his mother get killed.
Yes.
But so it's like, what?
There's a lot of jumping around. But yeah, the dad tried to like brainwash him so he doesn't remember what he saw, which was clearly like he killed the mom and made it look like a razor blade suicide. But yeah, there is a chunk missing. I'll give you that. So what are we missing? We're missing in between? Are we missing?
No, I can tell you everything we're missing. We're missing all of Anthony Hopkins' justification for everything he does. Like, okay, he's a werewolf, sure. Why does Singh still work for him? Why doesn't Singh run away or kill him or do any of these things? Why does Anthony Hopkins send Lawrence away, but then at the end says, you were always my heir, Lawrence? It's like, what are you talking about? You sent him away when he saw you kill his mother. It was just like there was something missing, like fundamentally missing from the motivation of his character.
I agree to some extent. I think it's more of the deterioration of him being locked up in that cage and caging up the beast. And it seems like he wanted to just release the beast, and it just so happens to be 25 years later.
Yeah, but he sent Lawrence away when he was a kid. So he was. I mean, he's been going crazy for 25. I don't know, man. That just really bothered me. It was like finding out Anthony Hopkins is the bad guy.
He sends Lawrence away because Lawrence knows what happened to the mom. That's why.
Okay, but he doesn't remember that until he comes back to address it.
Yeah, and I think he was worried about the other brother going away with Emily Blunt or something. It's a little like, man, that's not the best plot, but
yeah,
I will say I do like the idea of Anthony Hopkins being bit in India and coming back,
sure,
locking himself up properly by a trusty friend. There's parts of it that could have been a lot better.
Yeah,
just a lot better. But I will say this: I did not like when he goes in the mental asylum. I thought that was very. It lost a lot of steam at that point, the movie. Yeah. It felt like, I'm like, okay, now he's getting tortured, and okay, and now they bring up suicide, and it's like, okay, like, can werewolves even kill themselves? I thought that was the point. They're cursed. They can't.
Oh my god, yeah, I am sorry, man. I had a lot of problems with this movie.
That's fine. That's fine. You don't have to defend it.
Yeah, let's go through, well, because it also, like, it undermines what a werewolf is at the end. But let's kind of go through it a little bit here. So it follows the beats of the first, the original one, kind of, where it's like there's a big house in London. The brother gets killed by a werewolf. So Lawrence the American brother comes back. And this version, it felt like it really tried to like flesh out a lot more. Because if you remember the 1941 version, it's like an hour and like 20 minutes.
Yes.
This one easily adds an extra 20 minutes. And I think that's the thing. It's like it added too many plot points, but it didn't it didn't fill them in enough.
Yeah, well, the first one's simple. The first one is Larry comes home because his brother died, meets up with his father who hasn't seen her in a while, goes to a gypsy circus, gets bit, or like goes to like a gypsy like reading thing, gets bit, goes on a rampage, realizes he's a werewolf, tries to lock himself up. The father ends up killing him.
Yeah.
Simple. Nothing crazy.
And I love that. I think that was like the best way it could have been. He still has the love interest who's like trying to save him the whole time. Like, dude, just stick with that. Like,
yeah, this one's like the dad's the werewolf.
Yeah.
And I come home and I think my brother's been killed by a beast and it's my dad.
Right. And you're having an affair with your brother's ex-girlfriend or wife.
Yeah, it's like Pearl Harbor. It's like, okay, like
So yeah, so it was just like they added more plot points than needed to be, but then the plot points that they added, they didn't flesh them out to make it justified. I just gotta say, man, every werewolf movie, it's like, okay, when they turn into a werewolf, they basically black out and they wake up naked somewhere covered in blood and they have no idea what happened, right? That's what a werewolf is, right?
Pretty much.
Okay. This movie basically completely throws it out the window because at the end, it's like, wait. So he turns into a werewolf because his dad forces him to look at the moon. They both are now consciously aware that they're fighting each other. And Benicio Del Toro, as the werewolf, is like, I have to kill my dad. Why is he able to take control then? And then also, at the end with Emily Blunt, he's like, he has the ability to be like, I love her, so I don't have to kill her. That never happened before.
I think that was like they kind of brought that into it. Like love can break the spell or the curse. Remember Minerva, what's her name?
Yeah,
says that when she's saving him. Like only love can break the curse. And like I guess there's a moment of like consciousness there when he's with Emily Blunt, which was this Frozen? Like the only true love can break the spell of the frozen palace. Like it's Frozen.
But even before that,
you never saw Frozen, so you don't get that joke. Yeah,
I never saw Frozen. But let's throw away the Emily Blunt scene. The scene with him and Anthony Hopkins, where they turn into werewolves and have this like Godzilla versus King Kong fight or whatever. They're both cognizant of what's happening right there, right? They have to be.
I don't know if they're still Lawrence and Talbot. I think they're just two beasts fighting each other. Because they're still animals.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It really seemed like the werewolves they were like aware of what they were doing. They're like, all right.
You're telling me, man. I liked this movie in 2010 just because I was super pumped up to see it, and the Wolfman is like my favorite monster out of the Universal monsters. Seeing it again, I'm like, oh my god, they made the werewolf have gray hair, and I'm like, there's a lot of corniness. But I think one of the worst lines in the movie is at the beginning when Lawrence is like, he wants to see his dead brother's body, and the guy is like, you don't want to see this body, it's terrible, and he's just like, I haven't been there for his whole life. It's like, still,
You don't want to see
You
it.
really shouldn't see this. I mean, I know you didn't spend time with him, but like this is not quality time. So this isn't gonna help that. It's not gonna fix that, you know.
Yeah, you're not gonna walk away from this like feeling like, you know what?
I'm glad I did that. No, it's
Yeah,
probably a terrible idea. And the guy was like, okay, that line was terrible. I think the acting was okay.
well, for who's in it, it should be amazing.
You're talking some of the best actors in Hollywood. Emily Blunt too. I mean, it's Hugo Weaving. It's
Yeah.
insane like what this cast is. And this movie also won an Oscar for makeup, I believe.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. Like it's deserved, I think.
The makeup's good. The CGI looks horrible, but the makeup looks good.
The CGI part was bad, but the makeup and how they did some of these killings was really good, and it did win the Oscar, which is, I mean, that's all it can say forever. It's like, yep, we got a 33 on Rotten Tomatoes, but we have that statue.
Really quick, back to the acting you were talking about. Yeah, Benicio Del Toro, like, he was fine. Like, he was whatever. Emily Blunt, same thing. They were fine. But Anthony Hopkins, you're like, this actually could be a good role for him. But dude, I feel like he was phoning it in so hard.
Phoned it in.
The scene specifically where he reveals what's going on, he's like, I was in India and I like went to a mountain. Like that whole scene, dude, half of it's like not even on him. So I was like, did they just like ADR this in?
Yeah, he probably VO'd it in. Like, hey, Anthony's filming another movie. Like, what line do you need him to do? It's like, we need him to say like he was in India, got bit by a feral child. And like a really Anthony Hopkins voice, like really the kind of like the cannibal. It's like, I was in India and I was bit by a feral boy. It's like, oh god, like he probably hated that.
And the camera's on Benicio del Toro while that line's being said. So, because I was listening to that scene, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be like his monologue, and I was like, this is fucking crap, dude.
Yeah, and there's some really terrible lines from Anthony Hopkins too, but he nails a couple lines, like the terrible things, Lawrence, you've done terrible things, which is like the trailer. I remember. You've seen the trailer.
No.
Yeah, it's just some lines he hit home, and other lines are like he's not even trying.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I actually really liked the original one.
Yeah, me too.
You know, I think because it was simple, you know, and it invented a lot of stuff. I think the other thing is this also undermines what can kill a werewolf. Apparently, just smashing your head off can kill you.
Yeah, I guess you can die by suicide, you can die by a silver bullet, and you can die by decapitation.
Which, what? That's not how it works, I thought.
Well, I mean, Monster Squad answered that question when the Wolfman gets completely blown up and the moon somehow brings the body back together. So that was a cool scene. It's like, all right, staying true to the rules, you know?
Right, because that's the thing. You'd think like, okay, I just need a shotgun, which exists in this period. Just put a shotgun with any bullet to his head and blow it off, because apparently it doesn't matter.
When Lawrence is about to blow his dad's brains out, and he, pulls the trigger, he's like, I took the powder out of those cartridges years ago. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So what does that mean? So that Sing was basically his, like, he captured Sing apparently, but it was like, if I get out of control, Sing, you have to shoot me.
I wonder if he's from India, which is where he was bit, or I wonder if maybe he has a religious duty to prevent killings. They could have gone that route. They didn't tell us shit. They're like, this is my friend. He's my friend. Alec, he's my friend.
Yeah, it's bullshit. But the other thing is, I don't think that Anthony Hopkins killed him. Didn't Benicio del Toro walk into like a cave underneath the house and he was hanging himself? Isn't that what happened?
Maybe. I thought
Anthony Hopkins did?
Yeah, I thought he admitted he killed him.
I don't even know, man. Maybe.
Yeah, it's sloppy. The plot's just all over the place. Yeah. It's like trying to be classical. It's trying to be scary. It's trying to be clever. It's trying to be like whimsical almost. It's just failing. It's just failing.
Mm-hmm. You know what it reminded me of is kind of like a much worse Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
Just kind of had that feeling of, it's like, a guy coming to a town and doing an inspection. Kind of like
we're putting the nipples on the costume and also like doing something new and like totally reimagining it, and it's like it's not working.
No, it didn't work, and surprisingly, it had Danny Elfman too, who did the music for Sleepy Hollow. He did the music for this, which you would never know.
Forgettable music in this one for sure.
Right, and you're like, oh, it's Danny Elfman? Like,
yeah, phoned it in.
Yeah. The other thing is the budget was $150 million, and it made $142. So this was like a flop, dude. I don't know. I'm trying to think, because around this time it was like you got Van Helsing, you've got I, Frankenstein, and you've got
Dracula Untold, which is on the wheel. We're gonna do that one too, which is very similar to this in a reimagining way.
It just feels like they could not figure out how to remake these movies. Like, the only Universal monster movie that's been remade and actually really worked, I think, is The Mummy.